Hello and welcome to another episode of GA Today, hashtag B4, Breaking Barriers While Building Bridges. We're excited today about our show with our guest, none other than Dr. Nathl Moore. I need to say that right, Dr. Nathl Moore, the illustrious pastor of the First African Baptist Church in Lexington, Kentucky, and my dear friend and brother, Elder Garry Spots. We are talking about a topic today that I think is crucial and critical to every black church across the spectrum, and that is the young adult dynamics or the young adult demographics between the age of 20 and 45. It appears in most of our churches that that age group is very, very slim or it's missing. And I want us to talk about that today. I want us to maybe do a little dialogue about what we think could be the reason why they are either absent or whether they are not coming, or what they view the black church being, that historically the black church has been the institution for all black people as a springboard into every area that we've been able to make accomplishments. So I'm thinking I'm going to start with you, Dr. Moore. What is your feeling and thought about that demographic, ages 20 to 45, and their absence in the black church?
Excellent question, excellent topic, and actually just glad to be here with you all today as well. But you know what, I think that is a very relevant question for us to consider, the church of the day and where we're going. And I think part of that dynamic is relevancy. I think if you're not being relevant to any demographic or any population, then you stand a chance of not connecting. To me, it's relevancy. And I know earlier this year, as everyone engaged in protests and everything, it was interesting that was the younger crowd that was really leading the protest. And I remember, getting a call, us as black ministers in our area, getting the call to say, you all come down and be with us. And they wanted our presence, and they welcomed our presence, welcomed us being there and praying with them and marching with them and engaging with them in the process. And so again, we were addressing something that was important to them at that moment. So again, relevancy, I think, is very, very important. If you're not being relevant or meeting the needs or the needs that they have, and sometimes, and traditionally, we've been afraid to approach certain subject matters that are important to them. And we want to deal with them biblically. And so I think, again, relevancy, I think, is one thing, but also not just relevancy. I think it's always been said as well, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if we have not been showing them that we really care for them, where they are, what they're going through, what they need, then that becomes a problem. So I think on the surface level, I think those are a couple of good things, couple of issues right there: relevancy to them, and the fact that we care what they're going through, and that we have the answers. Biblically, we still feel like we have the answers, but again, it's addressing those topics that are vital and crucial to them.
Wow, it's interesting that you say that, because on our last episode, Pastor Creighton, who was I guess our moderator, he kind of said that when his experience was, they really didn't want the church, some of those who were protesting. So it's an interesting dynamic going on there, where your experience was they really wanted and accepted and welcomed the church in. His experience was he didn't seem to feel that was the case with his experience. Elder Spots, what is your thoughts and experiences on that topic?
Yeah, I think if I may address that, because I think the issue may very well be location, Lexington and Louisville.
Could be.
And I think that, there's some dynamics there here in Louisville because again, I haven't lived in Lexington since I left college. But, the reality is, I think Louisville has a more active, continuously active activist base of young people than I would suggest Lexington does. Now, I don't know that for a fact. You would be more apt to know that than I would. So I think that may play into it. This is a question that's been banted about for probably the last 5, 6, 7 years, particularly in the African American churches. As I travel across the country and working with churches in conferences and things of that sort, this is a key question. And one of the things I remember having a conversation with some pastors in Tennessee about is that young people, millennials, aren't looking for what we consider church. They're looking for meaning and substance. And so often they come to what we call church and they don't see what they perceive as meaning and substance. And so relevance is certainly a part of that, and the caring is certainly a part of that. In fact, that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I actually added a second part to that. And once they know how much you care, you better know something. And so a lot of times if there's no substance behind what you're saying, that's not going to hold them either. We're talking about, in many ways, a community of young people who have, at their present age, more knowledge and more exposure to information than we had probably 10 years older than when we were their age. And so they need meaning and substance. And I don't think that that we really understand that at all. I really don't think we understand that. So words like Christian don't resonate with these young people. In fact, it stopped resonating with me for a long time ago because I really prefer to refer to myself as a disciple of Jesus Christ, because the word Christian has assumed all these negative meanings, and people don't want that in their life. They don't want to be associated with that. And I think that's at least at the heart of why a lot of young people don't want to associate, and men, black men in particular, of all ages.
Well, I think the question is so prevalent for two reasons. One is that age group of 20 to 45 should be the group that we are grooming to take our place. That should be the group that we're preparing to pass the torch to. That's number one. And then number two, that age group is the group that would have children that would be in the church, which brings about your sustainability of the longevity of the church. And given that dynamic and that importance, what do you feel that the black church needs to do in order for us to not only reach that demographic, but to do it effectively and efficiently? Dr. Moore?
Be willing to adjust.
Wow. You're talking about making a change.
Change, yeah. That's almost like a kryptonite word in the church sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's really what the Christian experience is all about: is change, development, and growth, and the ability to grow and adapt. Absolutely. And if this pandemic period has not taught us anything, is that it has pushed many of us really outside of our comfort zones and pushed us into places that we may not have gone or been entered into sooner. And that is the digital format. We have so positioned church to being the brick and mortar, the place, but really and truly it's beyond that. And so I know for what we're experiencing, we're experiencing additional involvement of our young adults because we're doing things digitally, and they're also involved in various ways that they were not initially. And so we're willing to adjust what we're doing providing areas where they can plug in, the technology ministry of the church. And so for many churches, they've made that adjustment, but I know for my church and several others that we're part of, we're still part of a very traditional church background and have not made those adjustments. And so making minor adjustments like that, I think, is important because, again, it shows your ability to reach them where they are. They are digital, and so we have to be able to offer that to them by way of discipleship, okay? And so we cannot just tie things to the physical building, which is I think one major adjustment. But you're right, we have to be able to do those things to connect. I think another thing is really honestly listen.
Okay.
I think that is a major thing. Not trying to tell them what we think they should. No, listen. That's one of the things that I've enjoyed doing more, even with my own 20 to 40-year-old children. Listening, just simply listen to what they have to say and trying to answer or meet them where they are. And so offer them biblically sound, not just my advice. Let's see. Does the word really speak to that? They have some questions about things, and showing that yes, whatever you need is there. So helping walk them through seeing the relevancy of the Word of God, I think is very important by way of still those adjustments. So for me, that I've learned lately is really, willing to make adjustments that makes them feel a part, makes them feel welcome, but also let them, like you said, on the spots. I like that there's substance and there's purpose, and that we can provide for them. So I think if anything, the willingness to listen and the maturity, I would say, to adjust.
That's absolutely right.
Elder Spots, I think because what Dr. Nathl Moore said was so critical and crucial to this conversation was the digital platform. You have an extensive background in that area, and the church is not going to make the change, I believe, until the pastors can see that change and begin to move in that direction. How can we help pastors understand that we got to minister in this present age and begin to move in a direction that is going to, I think, be impactful to every church, and in some cases could be the very element that will allow the church to sustain itself, because churches are closing every day because their congregation is dwindling down to nothing. Yeah. How do you view that?
Yeah, I would like to add something to that, and that is that churches were closing before the pandemic too.
Well, that's true.
And I think that's important to note.
That's true.
So the pandemic is not the root cause of it. The pandemic may have put added pressure on those churches that were already in steep decline, atrophy, attrition, however you want to ascribe their decline. And you know this, that I published a journal in 1999, 2000 about the information superhighway, how it was going to impact the church, how it was going to impact incomes of your members, how the cottage economy was growing at a clip that was going to literally transform how people were going to earn money. That journal is still published on my website, and if someone can go and read that. And I distributed it to pastors all over the country, because I was trying to tell pastors 20 years ago that this is here. It's not coming. It's here. And many of the pastors I talked to then refer to the internet as the beast, because of all of the things that it had the potential to do, to make a one world government and blah, 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 blah. Well, what we have found now, it is never the beast any more than a hammer is a murder weapon. It's in the hand of the person, right? What is a hammer in the hand of a carpenter? It's something that builds and builds something beautiful. Right. What's a hammer in the hand of someone who has malintent? It's a deadly weapon. Yeah. So at the end of the day, this internet, this technology, these things we have available to us are tools that I believe God inspired people to have the wisdom, knowledge, understanding to create, to actually help us do the work of Christ and the building of the kingdom, and to propagate the power of the Holy Spirit more effectively. What do we do to help churches and pastors? I think we have to just, first of all, beat the drum. Beat the drum, beat the drum, beat the drum. Create opportunities for them to understand. And again, I'm always trying to tell churches, be intelligent. And as Dr. Moore was talking, I kept thinking about this word that I've used many times when I'm talking to churches and businesses, and that is we have to learn to be agile. We don't know what is around the corner, and only God can see around corners. We can't. That's why we have to live by faith, right? Scripture says that. And so at the end of the day, but we need to be agile enough to, when we see the change coming, and we need to have feelers out, trying to look for the next paradigm shift, because paradigm shifts appear long before they reach critical mass, and you can't change the tide of it. And so, again, I think we have to be more intelligent. Our organizations, associations, have to be thoughtful in publishing information and content and distributing it to our pastors and leaders. But I also believe we speak to the pastors. We communicate that to them. But I think you ought to go down to the lowest member in the church, the person who is barely ever actively engaged in the church, and say it to them, because fires burn up. It's just that simple. So we create content, we promote, and then we actually try to give them an easy way in that allows them to have some victories without a lot of sacrifice.
I like that. And I think that's one of the things, we just recently had one of our associational institute meetings, what we call them, educational institutes. And that's one of the things that came out of that meeting with our pastors class, what we're noticing for many of us that went through the adjustments during the pandemic period, from doing the cell phone on Sunday mornings just to do Facebook Live. Now the cameras and et cetera, we've done those things. And so what we're seeing emerge, I think, is really important, coming alongside other pastors. This is a perfect place for us as pastors to help pastors to say, hey, look, we didn't have it either. This is where and an entryway to let them know, yes, it may seem daunting, but at the end of the day, really and truly, it's really not as daunting as it really is. And that you can do this. It is doable. You don't have to have, a PhD in technology to do this. And that's, again, another entryway for young adults also to be involved in your church. This digital thing is interesting. We were having a discussion about I know our church demographic, many of our young adults, it's not that they're not in church, it's just that when they moved away from Lexington, went to college, never came back. And so, but however, they're plugged in now digitally, helping do some things to us. They're still involved, at their local place, but they're also helping us out as well via various areas within our church as we've gone more digital in some areas and things of that matter. So that also offers, places where young adults can plug into their churches. They're helping Brother Pastor learn how to do certain things. But that's what we've been trying to do as a district. That came out of our meeting to say, hey, look, we really can't help each other out. We must help each other out. And hey, Brother Pastor, you can do it. It's not rocket science. You can do it. You have to.
There's a temptation too. And there's a terrible temptation I've been hearing from pastors, and that is that this has gotten so good that they've been able to do it so well. They've experienced growth. And that's the other thing I think is really interesting about this, is that many churches have experienced a boom in the number of people who are accessing their content that you otherwise had no access to if you did just a brick and mortar setup. So, but I also think that a lot of times there are not many, but some who I've spoken to or heard of, who are they've become so comfortable with this new platform or medium that they don't even want people to come back in the building, because it's an easier way to go about it. You don't have to deal with all the other stuff that goes along with Sunday morning worship in a house full of folk. So that I think is also something that we have to thinking about as well.
Let me just kind of shift here for just a moment. Still with the young adult and that demographic in mind, ages 20 to 45. There's a saying about, the golden rule. those who have the gold rules.
Make the rules.
That's who makes the rules. Give me your thoughts, because my cut of the cloth, my baby boomer generation, our giving to the church. I mean, we're just going to do it. I mean, we were brought up that way. We were taught that way. You're going to pay your tithes. If I'm not there, I'm going to send my tithes, or I'm going to double up the next week. But I come from that school that you support the church and you give. It appears now that this same demographic don't necessarily have that consistency in their giving, but they seem to want to more give to a project that interests them, or to a situation that they're in about a cause. Yes. What is your thinking? Yes. Because in comparison, what they make versus what we were making at their age, and rightfully so, those numbers could have a large gap, and theirs is on the upper end. Give me your thinking, Elder Spots and Dr. Moore. Give me your thinking on that.
I think there's one thing that we have to take into consideration, and why the baby boomer generations, which of course I am part of, why we have been vested in our churches. And it's because we came in on the heels of a period of time when the church was the only thing we had. It was my Sunday school teacher was sometimes my third grade teacher, and we lived in the same neighborhood, and we lived, it was that kind of an environment. And I was telling my wife this past week, as we were driving past some buildings that were named for people, and I said, I knew him personally. I used to sit and laugh and talk with him. Mm-hmm. I mean, these were people who lived in the neighborhood that I knew well. And I think part of the challenge we face today is that when we got of age, we wanted to give our children something better. We took them out of our communities. And now we have access to all the hotels and all the entertainment venues and every other place. And we forgot to entrench them in our churches. So their commitment to the church has been really squandered by us.
Yes. Yeah.
We allowed them to lose that fervor that we didn't have a chance to have anything but. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's some culpability on our part as well.
Dr. Moore?
I'm going to come back around to relevancy again.
Yeah.
Because you're correct, they give to causes. And so therefore, if the church isn't being relevant in its work and activity, in particular by social engagement, social involvement, especially for the black church, because that's part of the gift of the black church is social engagement, social change, and so when you get a church that's not active and engaged in doing, then it's like, okay, what are you doing? So why am I, if you're not meeting my needs spiritually and you're not engaged socially, then why am I going to, why am I going to do that? So I think that's, again, relevancy. The church being relevant in its ministry to that particular population, but also to that demographic but also in its engagement in issues. Engagement in society, addressing what's going on. And I think when they see that, at least part of what we're seeing, even with those young adults that's away, but still, they're kind. They do remember the church to some degree. So, but again, I think you're right. They give to causes, and if your church doesn't have a cause, if your church is not active, I think that's gonna be a challenge. Yeah.
As we begin to wind down, our time is growing short, but between those two subjects of the absenteeism, if you will, of that demographic of 20 to 45, the mentality of their giving, which we all know that in the black church, I would venture to say that 98 to 99% of our black churches is financed through what comes over the offering plate. What should pastors be thinking about? Because keep in mind, we're breaking barriers and we're building bridges, and we're trying to be relevant to our pastors, to our leaders, to our church leaders, to so that the institution, which we're so proud of, still rises to the top each and every Sunday morning.
Yeah. I think we have to change some of the dynamic about what giving is and what we want them to give. It's not, I think we have to change them, aspect of them giving to the church, but really seeing even giving or tithing, whatever, as part of financial discipleship, or financial management. The tithing principle is not just the idea of me giving my tenth for the church, but from the church perspective, it's helping me to develop financially stable families. It's part of financial management. So not just approaching just giving as a one aspect, but teaching and preaching it and counseling it from a holistic perspective. This is how this fits into how you manage your money God's way. This is how you implement biblical principles in your financial management. So I don't think it's just the aspect. I think we have to change this aspect of just giving. No, we're not looking for you just to give to us. We're looking to give to you. We want you to experience the totality of financial stability, and this is the biblical way in which you do it. So I think it's beyond just talking about them giving, but how does this fit into you being economically viable and sound as a family?
You know, I absolutely agree with that. When I was pastoring and as a consultant, and I try to explain this to churches and organizations, and that is, I'm not going to ask you to give. What I'm going to do is ask you to invest. Because I understand that the difference between me giving you something and me investing in you is that I expect a return of some sort. Whether that's going to be your personal growth, your development, or something else. But if you go to the scriptures, Malachi, you know, bring ye all the tithe into the storehouse, that may be meat in mine house. Prove me now with the Lord of hosts. And if I will not, prove me, test me, and see if I will not pour you out a blessing. So God says, make your investment here, and then test the proposition that you're making an investment in this community of believers. And there's going to be a return to you if you understand that. We've got to change our language, change our approach.
Wow, this episode, this time has flown by. Thank you so very, very much for joining us as we continue to break down some needed barriers that has been holding the black church back, but at the same time build bridges that's going to carry us forward and into the future. Again, I thank you for joining General Association #B4GA today. Building bridges, breaking barriers. We are looking forward to our season finale, which will come on our next episode. I'm hoping that you will be here to join me as we kind of close out this season and see if our impact will make a difference in the lives and in the churches and in the pastors and in the people that are so precious to God, and therefore they must be precious unto us. And so until we meet again, brothers, I thank you so very much for your insight, for your input, for your knowledge, and for all that you bring to the General Association of Baptists in Kentucky. Final word, final goodbye.
Peace, love,
Good
and
to
soul
be
train.
here.
Again, thank you.
What an honor.
It has been a joy. It has been my pleasure to host you gentlemen today. And again, thank you for all of the input. We have to churn on this for a while. So here we go. Until the next time.